So I grew up playing basketball, maybe a little too much basketball. I started when I was about 6, all the way until I was about to graduate high school. And I remember like one summer we played about 70 games or so, and we won 64 of those games. So I think we ended up going 64 wins and 7 losses. And when people ask me like, how were y'all able to do that? It's not because we were just this wonderful team. The reason why we were able to do that is because we approached every single game with a healthy level of fear. That means we knew that every team we played against, they were full of players. Every team was full of players trained and determined to beat us. Their number one goal was to beat our team. It didn't matter how good they were, didn't matter how bad they were. We approached the game like that. We didn't say, oh, they terrible, man. We're going to roll the ball out. We're going to beat them by 20 and go home. Easy work. We didn't think that way. We figured those dudes are going to try to beat us. So every single play we'll go out there and play a certain way. And by halftime, a lot of the times we were up by 20 points or so because we took everybody seriously. I'm hoping, I'm praying that our Hurricanes have that same mentality to finish this season out. We've got a few games left, and we're favored to win all of them. But if we don't take these teams seriously, one of these teams can and will beat us. Okay, so let's talk about Duke. First thing I want to talk about with Duke is what I hope the coaches say in the locker room. Then I'll talk about what the spread is of the game. We'll talk about the talent composite scores between Hurricanes and Duke. Then we'll just talk about who Duke is. We'll talk about their stats, talk about some of their key players, and then we'll go over like some of the key stats, like the team stats and where they rank across the country. And then the last thing I want to go over is I want to talk about what I'm hoping that the coaches, um, what their mindset is going into this game, and talk about maybe what they're preaching to the players and what they're thinking. I think I got a game plan. I think I understand where they might be going with this. I'm hoping I'm right. So we'll talk about that towards the end. Okay, so Hurricanes versus Duke. Um, I'm hoping. So this is what I'm hoping the coaches say before the game. I'm all about transparency. I think transparency is best. Being honest with people, letting them know exactly what you think, keeping it real. Don't lie about things. Just being truthful. So in this game, I think the truth is coach walking into the locker room and saying, "Hey, look, y'all. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. We are a much better team than Duke. We're favored to win this game by almost 3 touchdowns. We are much more talented. We're better coached. Like the recruiting is lopsided in this situation. You got far better talent on this team. But if you don't play this team seriously, if you don't focus every drive and every play, I promise you, they're good enough to beat you." I'm hoping that's the mindset that Mario Cristobal presents in the pregame speech. Something like that. Like, let's just be honest, we are supposed to win this game. And that's not just what the bookies are saying. That's not just what the analysts are saying. I'm looking at you and I'm looking at their team. Our team is much better. But if you don't play the right way, they're going to beat you. I'm hoping he has a speech something similar to that, right? Um, because I think ignoring that fact is just, I think it's just wrong. Like, let's just put it all out there. I think it's just dishonest to ignore that fact that you have more talent, better coached, all that stuff compared to that team. Your football program is much better than their football program. The history here is much deeper than the history there. All that stuff is true. But if you don't play real Hurricane football, they're going to beat you. That simple. And if you have that mindset, you should be up multiple scores by halftime. So, Canes are favored to win by 20 and a half points, which I think is quite high. You know, when I saw that number come out, I was like, dang, that's high. So, that's my thought on that. And let's talk a little bit about the talent composite rankings right now. So, the Hurricanes are 14th in the nation. And what that is they just look at every player on your roster and they say this player's a 5 star, this player's a 5 star, this player's a 5 star, this player's a 4 star. They add all of those up, and whichever team has the most stars is number one. Whoever has the least amount of stars is 134 or whatever it is. So the Hurricanes is number 14. Duke is number 70. You've heard me say on this channel before that I don't really care about teams' records because all the record is you could play against the worst teams in college and win all 12 games. It doesn't make you a good team. I'm more focused on the talent composite and the record combined. So that's what I'm more focused on. Duke's talent composite is not real high. It's not real low. It's like right there in the middle at 70. And of course, the Hurricanes is right there towards the top at 14. So it's pretty obvious that the Hurricanes should have far more talent on the field than Duke. But I do want to talk about one of the players that is a standout player to me, which is Maalik Murphy. He transferred from Texas, which was a crazy surprise for most people. It was a big surprise to me, too, because I remember when he was coming out of high school, he was a pretty big deal. He was a four-star quarterback coming out of high school, and he ended up being a four-star transfer quarterback as well. So I wouldn't say everybody wanted him when it came to transferring, but so many schools were hoping and praying that Maalik Murphy would transfer and play for their school. He ended up choosing Duke, which was a shock to me. Shocker. All right, so he is a pretty good player. I think his best football is ahead of him. He hasn't quite put it together yet, but it's pretty obvious that his talent is there. And what I tell folks about talent is you might see a player who's super talented struggle the first 5 games. Like maybe he'll have 45% completions and average 200 yards passing for 5 straight games. And in that 6th game, he might go 32 for 40, 360 yards passing because the talent has always been there. It's just putting the talent with the brain, right? Once you combine those two, it can explode into something impressive. So that's what I would tell my Hurricanes is like, this quarterback hasn't put it all together yet, but he just might put it all together against you. So make sure that you are focused and ready just in case that does happen. We know how, for whatever reason, I don't know if these teams are approaching the Hurricanes as if it's their Super Bowl or their national championship. I don't know what's going on. But we'll play against a team and they'll trot their kicker out there and they'll say like season long is 36 and he's kicking a 52-yarder. And I'm like, oh, there's no way he's going to be able to make this. And by the time the kick ends, they're like, that would have been good from 59. That would have been good from 62. Like, how the heck is this happening? So everybody seems to put on they play their best football against the Hurricanes, which is weird. I watched them play against Michigan, and they're out there missing they're missing wide open passes, and then they play against the Hurricanes, and they're catching these Stretch Armstrong one-handed catches. It's nuts to me. But anyway, we'll see what Maalik Murphy puts together against the Hurricanes on Saturday. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about Duke as a team. So they did beat Florida State, which I think was impressive because it was the first time they had ever beat Florida State in the history of Duke football. Anytime you're able to erase a stat like that, it's got to be a little bit of special in that team. It has to be. I think it was 0-22 against Florida State all time, and they won that game. I think that's pretty impressive. So kudos for that. I know when I was in high school, I went to Wichita Southeast. We used to play against Wichita Heights. My team, Southeast, was undefeated against Heights for the history of the programs. We were like 54-0, something like that. And I went to the football game when I was a sophomore. My brother was a senior. And for the first time ever, Heights beat Southeast. It was crazy. Flags running all over the field, players throwing their helmets everywhere. It was crazy. And as crazy as it is, that was in 2003. My Southeast Buffaloes have not beat Heights Falcons since then. So we beat them like 54 straight years, and they've beat us now like 21 straight years or something. It's crazy. Crazy how that kind of thing happens. But anyway, Duke is 6-2. They started 5-0, and then they lost 2 of the last 3 games. One of those games was Florida State. So 6-2 does look like a really good record, but let's go ahead and look into the record a little closer. Okay, so they beat Florida State. We talked about that. They have 1 win. They've beat Elon, no Musk. They beat Elon, Northwestern, UConn, Middle Tennessee State, which I don't laugh at Middle Tennessee State anymore. And y'all know why. And then they also beat North Carolina, which we have no idea what North Carolina is, but it looks like they are hot garbage. Okay, so the teams that they've defeated so far this season, they might have a combined 15 wins on the year, something like that. It's pretty ugly. So they haven't beaten anybody, and then the teams who were decent beat them. They did lose to SMU, which they had them beat, and that's something that I would tell my team if I was Cristobal. It's like, sure, they haven't beat anybody, and yes, they barely beat Florida State, but they also had SMU beat, and SMU looks like a pretty good team. Duke had them beat. They just blew it at the end of the game. So I would definitely tell that to my team, like, don't overlook these dudes. They can beat some good teams. They've looked impressive at times, and every now and again, a team that's not used to losing will find a way to lose, and that's what Duke did. So their passing game, let's talk about that. They were passing for an average of 233.5 yards, which is 75th in the country. They've rushed for 110 yards, which is 118th in the country. That is nasty. And then talk about their defense, though. So they have 24 sacks this year, which is 12th in the country. That's impressive. I don't care who you're playing against. That is impressive. And then the next thing, which I think is far more impressive than that, is their turnover plus minus, which I think is what wins teams football games. Their turnover plus minus is 4th overall in the entire country. That means they're not giving the ball away, but they're taking away from the other team. So with that, let's do a quick transition and talk about what I'm hoping is in the minds of our Hurricanes coaches and the players. The first thing, I'm talking directly to Coach G. You are the man that's overseeing this defense, and we've got to get it turned around. But what we've got to do, in my opinion, going forward and for this game specifically, is adapt a bend but don't break style defense. Got to do it. With this team, they're not going to turn the ball over, so that means you're not going to get any pick sixes. We're probably not going to force too many fumbles. Let's not go for all that. Let's not go for the blitz this linebacker and then rotate this linebacker over to fill his position and then rotate this linebacker over to fill that position. And then the safety should transfer over that way. Let's not do all of that fancy stuff. We've seen too much of it. We've seen the safety blitz from here, and then this safety's supposed to rotate over, and then this safety's supposed to rotate over, and this linebacker's supposed to go over and get the flat. It's too much. Base a line, rush 4, and if you want to blitz a linebacker, go for it. If you want to blitz this linebacker, go for it. But let's not do too much. Let's stay in a zone if we need to, or quick man, base a line. Let's not have 8 people in the box showing blitz, 1 foot in front of the other like a track star, like they're going to just run through the center and get a sack. Let's not do that. Rush 4, not do anything cute. Let's not overcomplicate stuff. Let's just play it like it is. Your team is talented enough to beat Duke just playing straight up football. Let's please not overcomplicate things. What we've seen from our Hurricanes when we do overcomplicate things is what? You want to say it with me? Busted coverages. We've seen it over and over and over and over and over. Whenever you do this whole blitz this person and rotate everybody, when we do that, we almost always leave somebody open, and the result of that is a 2-play touchdown drive. With this team, with Duke, we cannot do that. Let's make them earn everything they get. I don't believe that this offense, Duke, I don't believe that they can put together a 10-play drive for a touchdown. I don't think they can do that. So I believe we need to make them prove that they can. Make them prove it. Simple. Rush 4, and then make Malik Murphy read what's happening. Every now and again, this linebacker who's lined up on the tight end, blitz him every now and again. Every now and again, that corner that's lined up on the slot, blitz that corner. Just throw a surprise in every now and again. But let's just play base defense. and we will beat them. I don't. If we do base defense, I don't think they can score 21 points on us. I don't. And our offense is gonna score. I don't think they can score 21 points on us if we just play base line and we don't give them touchdowns. Let's not give them anything. Make them earn all of it, and they can't score. Okay? Nothing overcomplicated. And then we got to play with a healthy level of fear. We've got to know, sure, we're favored to beat them by 20.5 points, but that doesn't mean we're going to score a 21-point touchdown. You know what I'm saying? So we've got to play every play, know that their job is to beat you. So play every play like that. Respect them enough to play them seriously every play. Don't play with the projection of winning by 21 points in your head. Take that out. Play the game as it is. Okay? That's all that I got for you today. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate the support. It's been a whole lot of positive comments all over the place, speaking to each other, speaking to me, so I appreciate that. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me. I appreciate that, so take care. God bless. Peace.